with 10 minutes. I
So,
don't think.
so just before that, I added this week because of community request, just a small endpoint for fetching the list of top token holders for any token. So you can test that out. It's on the main branch. It's not on any specific tag because we didn't have other features to update as well. But it uses the state, the account state, so it will only be accurate on a fully indexed node. So to counter effect that, it will also have we also have a tool that is not out yet, but we'll publish a tool that you will sync just the accounts. So if you have like a partial Hyperion node without full history on Elasticsearch, you will not know that you have, like, you will not be completely sure that you have all the updated balances on the account table. So what we'll do is just run a quick scan of the account tables for all tokens, and then with that, you can have an updated state at that point, and then you don't need to worry about running partial because it should be updated as it is. And then that endpoint and other endpoints that like get tokens, get top holders, and those kinds of things will work better with partial Hyperion. So this is one thing, nothing related to the hub. For the hub, I wasn't planning on putting any information out now because we are finalizing the page that will allow people to register. So this is one of the primary changes from the last time we had the hub online. There will be some like rebranding, but mainly the last time we had that running, I was manually giving out publishing keys for the provider that wanted to participate and publish the information. Now, what we are doing is that if you have an account or you are a producer on a chain that you are indexing, you will have like the automatic authority to use your blockchain account to register automatically. It will not even use a smart contract. You just be signing a transaction off chain and then submitting that to the hub for registration, just to prove that you have ownership on an account on that chain. So we can basically an anti-spam system, because we don't want people publishing in the name of other producers, like fake publishing, right? So the idea, for those who didn't saw the previous version when it was online, is that we will have like a centralized place, a hub, that all the providers can, if they want to, it's optional, they can publish their information about the endpoints that they are providing, and also other important metadata. For example, if they are blacklisting something, if they have some specific configurations. So, and non-private configurations can be added to the hub, so people can see what kind of specifics that node has, and most importantly, what block range they have as well. So this can help. For example, the hub has an endpoint that can request which endpoints have a specific range. So if you want to fetch a block from the past or something very old, and you don't know who has that, you can just pass that block number to the hub, and then it will give an endpoint that will have that block for sure, for example. And also, besides that, it will have live monitoring, real-time monitoring for things like the sync speed. So you will be able to see if somebody is not indexing at the right speed for that chain, because everybody should be indexing the same amount of of actions or deltas or blocks for the given chain. So you can see outliers. You can also see if somebody stops indexing and is still serving the endpoint. This can be monitored like instantly at the exact second that the indexer stops. The hub will know, and people can get notified. And one of the important things with having the registration based on a known account is that we can know if that people, for example, provide the Telegram handle. We can trust that and use that to ping that Telegram handle to or with notifications if needed. So it's like it will not require us to manually configure who is being notified for what, for which account. Yes. So the hub is a dedicated platform, but the publishing service will be open source, will be inside Hyperion, and what we call the exchange server, it will be open source as well. So the only thing that we are doing like centralized is we will host our exchange server, our receiver, and we will host the monitoring service. But if you want to run your own, or anyone wants to run another one, people can just replace the publishing URL in the Hyperion, in the provider, and then they will be able to publish to another one. Maybe we can allow multiple publishers, but there's multiple receiving ends, but we'll need to test that out.
All right, gotcha.
So the idea here is not to replace any other monitoring tools, validation tools. Is basically to give a more real-time view, like by the second, of the whole network, and also include things like API load, how many requests per second that API is providing, and that kind of thing. So we'll be able to see if any node is being overloaded or some node is not receiving as much requests, for example.
At which point can rate limits be defined? So how can we avoid spam?
Sorry, what do you mean?
So, okay, a little bit of background story. What's happening on Wax right now, right? We are trying to take to reduce the full Hyperions we have in the network, like the full archive nodes. We don't really need 15 of them on Wax. We would like to boil them down to 5. We were even considering having something like an API key sign up for customers, right? And then under a certain plan, you receive a certain rate limit. Like, let's say, for example, for $10 a month, you can have like 100K requests a day or whatever it is. So how would we be able to apply rate limits to certain block ranges, for example?
No, but I mean, you are talking about another product that we actually are developing, but I cannot disclose this right now. So, but as for Hyperion Hub is involved, there's nothing related to that.
Okay.
So Hyperion Hub is not giving you the data, right? It's just giving you the information. So if you want to know which producers or with providers have that range, you request that for the hub. But it's not the data, the requests are not passing. It's not a load balancer. It's not anything like that. So the data is not going through the hub. It's just a real-time information service about the availability of that network on Hyperion ecosystem.
In relation to that, yeah, I mean, like you build that proxy server system and it would query the hub to get, all right, here's all the history servers that I can put in and out of the back end. It's culminating from each of the providers, if it's the same way it used to be. But it's really that real-time information of all these decentralized to get all that hard work out of the way, and then the proxy server can be like, nope, Ross's shit's broke, send it to EOS USA. Oh, his shit's broke, send it down to Rio, and latency and or location. Anyway.
Yes.
Anyway. But that's how it would tie in. So it would just feed that list of history servers. I mean, they're API servers too, but
yeah, and
yeah.
if they have rate limited natively configured, we can show the rate limiting on the hub as well. It will be hard because most of the rate limit does not happen in the Hyperion config. People use reverse proxies and other things, so that kind of rate limit we don't know. So I don't know if it's very valid to show the internal rate limit if they have defined it as.
There's interesting layers of it. Is that you've got the proxy, and then you've got, like, Hyperion does actually have some built-in rate limiting that at least tries to protect the back-end Elasticsearch and the monstrosity of data. And then Elasticsearch actually even has also some limits that kick in, and could be performance, mostly just based off of data and query. But
yeah, if you
it's going to be very difficult.
Yes.
Correct. Anyway, sorry, Ross.
I think he was also mentioning the data tiering, because we were speaking about data tiering like 2 weeks ago.
It would be
when you have like slower disks and. Hey, that's what you're talking about, hey, Yanis?
No, not really. Just,
okay, sorry. I know we spoke about it, so that's why I brought it up.
But it would help with that, is that if you're requesting, you can easily know what's a partial Hyperion node, and the proxy server can be smart enough to, say, oh, this is the list of current 6-week providers. Or, oh, you're asking for something old? And that's what, like, Greymass actually did that with their Robovorsky, or whatever the hell it's called, Frankenstein, is they developed a custom API response code when the block was missing. And it daisy-chained its way down that it would say, I have the block, I don't have the block, I have the block, I don't have the block. So you can tier it and build a system to where it's intelligent enough to know where to send these queries. And then the hub would have the back end. Yes, Ross has a big, full Hyperion history server, slow or not, and it would only send big queries to the big servers. But that would be all at the proxy level. Like, I mean, you would design it, in my opinion, to do all that there. And then the hub is just feeding you. Here's the partials, here's the fulls, here's the token APIs, whatever it is.
Exactly.
Okay. Understood.
I'm excited. I'm ready to break it. Let me install it. Come on, Igor.
How would you install it? Is it how does it work? Is it a plugin? Do you just upgrade your software and configure it to send some message to the hub?
Yes, actually, I believe the old hub code is still on the code base, but disabled. Not disabled, but it won't work if you configure it because it's not online. So it's built in to Hyperion. You just need to add your private key to your configuration to allow it to sign the messages as your account. And we'll explain that, but it's not something that you install. If you update Hyperion, it will already be working for you.
All right, so it's part of the Hyperion software. Okay.
Yes, it's published internally.
Okay. Does anyone have any other questions about the Hyperion app? I would add, like, what does the timeline for the Hyperion app look like? A month, 3?
No, I think it's probably within a month, because we have been busy working with the Savannah release as well. So lots of machine shop did a lot of testing to do. So we weren't working on that right now. So with the like stabilization, like Savannah being stable and updated on EOS mainnet tomorrow, I believe it will free some time for us to go back to that. And most of the work has already been done. So just basically fixing some last bugs and putting it online again. And we will probably open it for registration at some point, a little before putting the tool online, because we'll need some data just to do some final testing. So yes, let you guys know.
Will you have any future
Probably the timeline will be like the Hyperion updates that will include the final code for publishing, then the registration, a page, and then we go online with the Hub API.
All right, got it. Now that Savannah is rolling out and we are on,
and we actually know that we don't need to do any changes to Hyperion because of the new version. So basically, that would be a very bad setup. That very bad thing would happen, because if we had to manage 2 rolling versions, like one to fully support Savannah, one to fully support 5.0, it would be more complicated. But gladly, nothing big changed in terms of state history, so it's all right.
Well, they did change it, but it's backwards compatible.
Yes, no, they did change it, but is on the mostly on the storage that is now not compressed by default, and they added more things related to instant finality, but that will not break any current indexing.
It is awesome to have a lib that's only 2 blocks behind, though.
Yeah, and this will not benefit Works for now, but for people running Hyperion on Savannah, you can configure the state history node to be reversible only, and then you are basically free of forks. You don't need to worry about having to handle fork, because they will not happen. Because it's for the perspective of a history API, it's fine to have a 2-second delay to request something. It's better to have that than to actually having the risk of you request too quickly and you get a micro fork, and then it rolls to another transaction. So I think it's a very good change for history application, mostly for real-time transaction checking, but history in general.
Well, state history is the fire hose of all the data out, and now you can at least almost completely obfuscate the whole. Well, it might be valid, it might not be, and you have to handle it. So now you can just say, nope, whatever is spit out is a second old and final, in theory.
Yes. Yeah, and it should be, because if you didn't receive the votes, your node will be stuck there waiting for those votes, I think.
Correct. You don't fork, you just wait.
You just wait for the votes. And you don't relay it then, but yeah.
All right. Do you have any future plans on adding such a feature as configurable rate limits, creating API keys to make to have like a paid plan quotas for certain requests. Anything you're cooking in the background?
Yes, we are working on another tool, but on another completely different project, and we will soon announce something to the public, but it's not for right now. Some people already know what I'm talking about, but I can't say here right now.
All right.
But it will be related to that problem we have in basically all chains. But it will not be on Hyperion. It will be on another layer for all services.
Right. Because I think that's one of our pain points on Wax, right?
Yeah.
We have way too many transactions on Wax. We're growing out of this space.
Yes.
We need to find a better solution to have access to a full archive nodes, like every transaction since Genesis, and then of course we want to use like a 6 weeks range for more recent data, which is much easier to host, much more affordable. So that's the background for that question. I'm currently trying to find a good way.
This is the whole point of what we're building. We will be using the aggregation of capabilities of multiple providers to have a more robust service for the whole chain. And it has the payment parts included. So, but we are not building it inside of Hyperion because it's supposed to be a different thing.
Of course. Makes sense. Okay.
Cool.
Maybe we got a couple more minutes to get into one or the other, a little unpleasant topic. I think that's mostly related in some cases to, for one instance, in some cases you're requesting data from Hyperion and you don't get the undecoded data, right? The decoded data. So you get just the blob of the transaction. I think something like that.
You mean deserialization, failing to deserialize?
Yeah,
something?
deserialized. Exactly, yeah. Yeah. That was an issue we observed sometimes on some Hyperions, and still questioning why that happens or why that is in some cases. Of course, we don't have all the information necessary here to supply to you, like we don't know the exact hardware setup in the background, right?
Yeah, so I mean, deserialization failures like that usually happen when there was a failure on the loading of, so there are basically two causes. One is when the ABI for the contract was updated, something happened and it fails to fetch that information and store on the ABI table. But if it's on the latest ABI, it can also be just because of the contract itself using some kind of ABI that's not compatible with the deserialized. Usually it's a bug on the developer side, because you can write a transaction that pushes information to your contract. Your contract can decode it because you wrote the code to decode it correctly, but you wrote the wrong ABI. So if that happened, Hyperion doesn't know how to decode it, and it will fail it to show the original binary format. That's the primary case. The other case, it should be a problem only when decoding old history. So if that transaction was indexed on a previous version of an ABI and not the latest, it could be and that old ABI is missing, then it could be failing because of that. But this is very rare, and it only happens if you are re-indexing a large bulk on a non-complete ABI table, ABI history. I think like depending on the contract, if it's like a system contract, a very used contract, and then it's failing, then you let us know. But if it's a contract that someone is building some specific dApp, maybe it could be that the contract has been updated and is doing something different from the ABI that they published.
There's about half a dozen, maybe more, maybe even a dozen, that when I restart my wax index,
Yeah,
they
exactly.
immediately all just scream, and they're like, number
because they are not compatible with the serialization.
Correct.
And we don't have much to do about that.
Well,
we try to keep the node EBS, the serializer, in sync with the latest changes, but those are usually for bug fixes. They are not like adding new capabilities to the serializer. That.
But the point and where that kind of came up is that the integrity of the data being provided. I mean, it's layer 2 and it's the Wild West, so it's kind of, it does its best effort, but if it can't, it just throws it out there and says, all right, here it is. But that in itself, you know, I mean, unless you can fix it, it's just an interesting quirk of layer 2 history and trying to allow anybody to do anything. It does have ways to fix it, but it won't really fix itself because that's what the code's telling it to do. Those are dark contracts. I mean, you can do that intentionally, to be honest with you. And some people do.
Yes.
Yeah, I've learned that some people break their ABIs, right? Just intentionally.
Do you need it? No. And
people even could be breaking the ABI just to be a little more hidden in terms of what they are using in their app, what information is their application publishing on chain. They could be trying to hide that by purpose of breaking the ABI. I don't know.
Okay, that was a good answer. I think I understand that problem better than before.
But I mean, if you have like almost all providers with the information and some provider doesn't have the information at a specific transaction, then it's probably a local issue with that ABI history.
Now, one thing that does make it more interesting is, and Igor, you said this about the hub, is because we're all phoning home general stats. I'll give you what I'm doing. Ross will tell you what he's doing. We know what you're doing, Sweden and theirs. You can pretty quickly be like, everybody missed it and, you know, can't deserialize versus something being different. You know what I mean? You probably could better detect, look, it's an anomaly, but you're at least going to get the same anomaly within reason between.
Yeah, we could probably try to forward errors through the hub. This is a tricky subject because it could very well flood the hub server because of some specific failure and at some provider. But if we have like the serialization error, we could try to forward that to the hub, right, Michael, and then analyze which other providers have the same error.
One of the other more likely and much more detrimental, I think, and I think Anders is the one that picked up on this, is, and I remember when the feature got added, but there's a max inline depth, right? And I know why it's there, because you can blow it out. But it's got a limit, and I do think that at some point some of the settings were low enough to catch even, you know, because I mean, these bots are doing legit work. They're just super stacking them. And so you can be running your Hyperion node 100% like you think it should be, but it's just literally cutting out the bottoms, you know, of the inlines. And you really have no way of knowing, you know, I mean, it's designed to not allow itself to be blown out, but that can result in, well, I did four layers deep and then stop. And then like Sweden, who says, no, 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 we do it 16 layers deep, they get all of the transactions, and you get a difference of actions and deltas, which is so difficult. But the hub allows you to at least compare it. If Sweden has a lot more than, you know, or Ross, and y'all have more than me, then you know, something's out of whack. I'm not getting all of them when everybody else did.
Yeah, you're right.
There was a comment from Anders. Big NFT pack contracts had combined pack openings to save resources for RNG, and it had a lot of legitimate inline actions.
Correct. Not just the bots. Sorry, they were legit. But that was the interesting thing is, oh no, it wasn't wrong. But I can tell you, if you don't have a limit, people can break things.
Yeah, and it did happen. I saw some cases of over 300 inline actions or more in a single transaction. So it's not like a good idea to do that in terms of developer side.
I think if we look at the dashboard from WAC Sweden, we could even find actions with 10K inline actions, if I'm not mistaken. Am I wrong or right about that, Anders?
I think there were hundreds, 100, 120.
Yeah, I don't know if 10K would fit in the block time, but yeah, I saw over, yeah.
Yeah. Math doesn't quite work on that, but yeah, a couple hundred. And the point is that, and those same 100 caused catastrophic problems from a different implementation of inline.
Yeah, because the inline actions inside the contract, they don't use block space. So basically they are created for free, and they waste the history space without anyone paying for that block space. So it's just time. So you are free to do whatever number of inline actions you want with your CPU stake, but who pays for that is who is handling the history. So this is why we cannot remove the max depth feature, but people can use whatever they feel is important to use. But I think, like, my personal view is that kind of use case, if some application is using that for a legit reason, like a very high number of inline action, they shouldn't be using public Hyperions. They could run their own, set the limits to what they want, and whitelist their own contracts. Then they can have just their own information if they really need that.
Okay, I think, yeah, Michael, go ahead.
I was going to say, it also ties into that original conversation about not having to get private history servers, but some sort of a Infura type. Yes, they have to pay for it. Yes, it's going to provide real providers with valid settings, but I think we want to try to get away from having anybody have to spin Hyperion, because as you know, nobody makes their first jump.
Yes. No, but what I mean is that this kind of usage, it's not for the public history.
Yes, I agree.
So if you are a user and you need to know, for example, which NFT you opened, it's like you could look on your table on the state table after the block. So you don't need that information on the history, right? The application should be designed to look that on the state and not on the history. This is what I mean.
Mm-hmm. And that maybe leads to another thing.
Somebody disliked that.
Observe. What we observe is Hyperions get slammed with requests, but mostly just to check if a transaction is reversible or not. So
yeah, but that should be a very light request because of the preemptive transaction cache. But yeah, this is a problem with long finality.
Mm-hmm. How can we improve that situation? Because I know Roborowski from Greymass, for example, is tweaked to handle that specifically, right?
There's literally an API endpoint that was developed for that.
Yeah, we are tweaked to do that as well.
But you have to have the developers use get transaction status and use it, and have the API providers have it configured. Or they do what they know to do on all the other chains that only have a block every 10 minutes and say, well, just ask the history server what was out there and that'll answer what was on chain or not. But that doesn't work the same when you have billions of transactions, you know? So it's that docs training. I mean, just breaking the fundamental base mentality of, well, you should just go check the chain history to see if your transaction was there. That's not invalid on most places. It's just not the way to do it here, in my opinion.
Just to answer Nick here in the chat, I think yeah, I agree. There is a way to run full history. But if you open up, since we don't have that, it's a billing problem. You don't bill for what people are storing in the state history, and this is a problem. So since this billing issue exists and the inline actions are free to send, on public usage, you will have full history, but you will have limited visibility on what the DApp developer or whoever is calling the action is being billed for the action. It's not paying. So what I mean is that it's not fair for a public endpoint to be obliged to handle all the free things that they are being sent to.
But it isn't free, right? I mean, I understand your pain, but every call that you do in a contract...
It kind of is. But it kind of is, because you are being billed for the CPU you spent and not for the storage you used.
Yeah, but that's true for every other transaction. If I do 1 million separate transactions, it's the same thing.
No, I'm sorry, but no, you're wrong. When you do a transaction, you need NAT stakes. So NAT will be required for the amount of data that you put in the block. And if you are not doing inline actions, that NAT value is the rate limiter that will be fair of use for everyone.
But
so
no,
if you are not using...
But NAT is for the data that you transfer, right? For the parameter stuff.
Yes, the data that goes in the block, right? That goes in the block history.
Yeah, but if I make a contract that does nothing, has no parameters, just executes, it costs CPU, it costs a little bit of NAT, but it's just the scale of things. You have an objection because there are like hundreds in one action instead of 100 separate ones.
No, but it's different because if you are doing fair use of the CPU and also the NAT that you are required. Of course, if you are doing a zero NAT transaction, if that's possible, it will be kind of an exploit. I don't know how to call that, but what I mean is that the important history of the blockchain is the block history. With the block history, you can replay the state history. So the state history is not something that is, let's say, the first source of truth. So I could run a different version of my node that creates a different version of the state history with more information. For example, the fuse creates a different version of state history that has information on deltas linked with actions, because they modified the nodes to pull that information out. So state history is not the source of truth, right?
You can do that even with natural code. I mean, that threw the atomic indexers for a loop, because with contracts enabled, your state history
exactly
is different
it's changed
than the rest of the world who didn't see that API console log. So I get it.
Remember
net is the billing. I definitely. That's why I run contract console and other things. But the net is the billing of your storage of state change. And I think what you're saying, my feeble head wrapped around it, that you don't get billed for storing things in state history unless you pay net, and inline doesn't charge net. So and that's why it's cheaper. The inline actions.
Yes, and that's the point. So you always have the full history on the block log. If somebody wants to see that as unlimited inline actions on their full history, they will have to index their Hyperion or whatever history, allowing all those actions.
Correct. The one transaction then triggers the state change, which is so expensive and never ultimately gets billed, because net is what kind of handles that. Makes sense.
Yeah.
That's why state history is so much bigger than block history.
This is why, exactly. It's like I think this is like an inherent problem of especially the NFT related aspect, because it's common for pack openings and this kind of thing to use that kind of pattern. But if the developers can change the way they can still do it, but if they can change the way they design their applications to use more state and not state history, it would be better for the whole chain. But since there's no billing system for state history, and I don't know if it should be there as well, because it's not required for the consensus or anything else, so it doesn't go on chain. So as long as that billing doesn't exist, there is no incentive for the applications to not use it. That was my point.
So in other terms, inline actions should bill net.
So sorry, can you elaborate on the NFTs part? What could be changed?
Yes. No, just one second, Yanis. I don't think it should be billed, because the inline actions are not part of the consensus. What is part of the consensus is the overall state change, the deltas that are generated after a given transaction. But the inline actions in themselves, or the receipts of the traces, are not part of the consensus. They are not required for consensus. So if we add billing for inline actions, and let's see the whole chain, no one is running state history, so you are basically billing for nothing, because you are overbilling, because you are already billing for the CPU. The thing is, this is hard because on one side, the applications will want to use that because they can push more data to be saved on the free history node that they can use. And on the other side, the chain gets like damaged because of that, because you get way more data than you could need. So I think like what just to the other question related to the NFTs or any contract that using inline actions, I think that is more fair and also way more optimized if you store for example, your pack openings on a state table on your contract, saying like this pack ID, for example, opened those NFTs, and then you store that in your account state when you open it, you pay for the RAM for that. It could be temporarily, and later the user can reclaim some RAM if they want from their state. There are various systems on that. We had an NFT platform running on another chain that we used some of those techniques, so we didn't rely at all in any kind of history solution for user experience, and it worked well. There are ways to do it.
That is how unpacking works. Like on Wax, for pretty much all unpacking services, so that otherwise
right. So,
like
if it already works like that,
yeah,
why you need to access the unpacking data inside like a 100 inline actions long transaction? That's my point. You don't need to. If you have,
you might have to link one of those, because that's.
I think you mean the log transaction things, like log mine and log, all those things that have parameter data in there. So that gets stored in the history, but it never gets written to a table. So you just abuse the history as a trace log. That's what you mean, right?
Yes, exactly.
Like on so what transactions? Like, or what action would it be?
If you do a mine on Alien World, or if you do something with an NFT, there's sometimes a log action that has like 10 parameters that get sent into the action, and the action itself, that log action, does nothing except being recorded on, hey, that's something that has executed before. So when you look up the transaction,
are you talking about the set asset data?
No, because that actually does something. I'm talking about specific, like log mine for Alien Worlds. Look at that.
I see. Okay.
Yeah, we use it. That's the data that we actually scrape from the chain.
What I mean of the billing is that for this example, Alien Worlds, it's using state history providers' storage for free, because they are not paying more because they included these log parameters in the log mine action.
That was actually pulled off of the original action, because originally the mining action, I think, did it in the main thing, and then they kind of broke it off separately.
Yeah, it was too expensive. So how they cut the cost? They put on the line actions and then request later off chain.
Right. And make it more efficient.
But even later, they completely rewrote it so that they don't even need to do that. So I think they could actually just remove it entirely, because they don't use that even anymore.
So if they, yeah, exactly. But you know my point. You understand my point. There is no incentive
I understand your
on
point.
the chain for the developers to change what they are doing to reduce the amount of storage that the state history is using.
I think right now,
I completely understand. I just, like, from like a black and white perspective, I still feel like if you have a solution for history, that you should store it all. But I'm not saying that it is ideal, but yeah.
No, yeah, I agree that like our history solution must be able to store everything. The problem is that on our specific case on Wax, we can't have a public history solution open for everyone, or like multiple public solutions that are storing everything in that sense.
Exactly.
I think that's an interesting way to approach it. It's just that, like, in practice, your net usage rarely ever goes up above like even 1% by the time your CPU's at like 90, And
yes.
The actions that I notice bump it up the most are when you're actually pushing large amounts of data on chain. So that could be like massive JSON blobs or just smart contract data. Then it ramps it up quite a bit. But even then, it's almost like a non sequitur. So maybe some kind of net scaling, or even some kind of additional net fees, flat rate, just for each inline action, or depending on the fields. Because how it's scaling right now, it doesn't really make sense,
I'd rather ditch net completely and just add it to CPU cost, make the resource allocation simpler. But yeah, I have
right now right now it simply doesn't account for history. The whole resource system does not account for history and history storage. It just doesn't. And I think one important thing we need to look at is who do we actually want to serve by providing this free public history? Who are the people we want to encourage, who we want to support? Is it the user? Is it the devs? Is it new developers? And I think at least my impression was always the purpose of this public free history is to encourage devs and people to develop on Wax and release stuff on Wax. So it's mostly to encourage new devs. And that's also one of the reasons why we initially decided to stop forcing guilds to store Alien Worlds data, because we always said if a dev outgrows the public infrastructure, they should be able to finance their own infrastructure and finance their own endpoints for their user base. So yeah,
that's exactly what I was talking. If somebody has their own requirements to use a lot of inline actions, so they can run their infrastructure to require that information. But I don't feel that this information should be something that the general user or block explorers or this kind of things need to access. And yeah, if we start like increasing the cost of transactions just because of inline actions, then it's also bad for the chain, because it's not required for consensus again. Lisa asked the annual cost of full history. For us, it's hard to tell because we purchase our own hardware and we have everything in house, so it's very hard to quantify that. But
I mean, I probably have $10,000-$12,000 worth of hardware, and we do it.
I would say if you try to rent machines if you try to rent somewhere, I would say about $300 a month, probably, to have something be able to run full, like on a minimum specification.
Yeah, I think I was told Hetzner currently is around $700 for full history for a node that is highly queried.
It's the space, though. You have to have 30 some odd terabytes of space, and that's where hosting servers really zing you.
That's very expensive, yes.
They'll give you CPU clocks all day long, but you want to store 35 terabytes. I mean, just so you know, the largest drive I can even buy is a 30 terabytes. I mean,
we have
20,
like
20
at least 4 machines with over 32 terabytes of SSD, but
yeah,
this has been like purchased along of several years, so it's
Yeah.
And that's also a problem. I mean, in relation to state history, it's 14 terabytes and grows like, I don't know, 30, 35 gig a day of state history changes. And right now, and obviously it sounds like for the foreseeable future, that's 2 files, basically. And they are, just so you know, you can corrupt them, and you don't even know it until it's too late. I mean, it's kind of dumb storage because it's state history. It's not block history. It's not validated the same way. There's no tools to manage it other than
I requested that to DNF the other day. So we already have a tool that can split and merge block logs, and I have been using that to store into different drives and use different types of configuration for block log. And we could have that for the state history file as well. It could help. But as long as we have ZFS, at least. ZFS help us.
When you talk about the cost of that storage, is that, and that's state history, and that ain't just Hyperion. That's anybody that's running state history. Yes, you can run trimmed, and that's what a lot of people do. And I don't know if you saw, but that hurts whenever you have a problem and need to go back a day or two. And I mean, your server just doesn't, it can't survive in that mode. And I think, Atomic was scrambling to try to get a node back far enough because everybody's flipped their state history to just march forward because it's so expensive to store state history relatively. Yes. I mean, pennies, but space, it's a lot of space. It's terabytes, and it's one file, 2 files. I mean, you can split them, but anyway, that it's not just the Hyperion storage of 30 terabytes. There's the state history, and you got a couple of them? Yeah. And it's not going to change now because we're going to stick on Leap for a while, which that's that. You got what you got. Anyway, great topic. One of my favorites. I'm glad Igor's here. I don't get to see him much.
Yeah, thank you very much, Igor, for all the information. I think I learned a lot today. Really helpful.
Yeah, thanks, Igor.
Thanks, guys. I think if we can, in general, we can't force dApps to change, but if in general we can let the applications developers know that they shouldn't rely too much on the history, because, or the other way is you have public history with some inline limits, and then somebody, but that's not the problem. Somebody can be running a specific full history with all the inline actions, and that could be a paid service. But my question is, who is paying for that? Is that really important and really has the demand that will get people paying for that full inline history? I don't know.
Probably not. After today's talk, I don't feel bad anymore with putting a sentence into the guidelines. You don't need to index alien worlds and farmer worlds anymore at all.
Do I get bonus points if I do?
That's a question. Do we have any side effects if we don't index those?
No, nobody has them to use them. I mean, I've got about 15,000 hits a month on my reporting API of pulling that data.
Maybe we should dedicate one single server at indexing those.
Those requests are for everything or specific for alien world requests?
We
check those alien worlds and
we index all of the alien world mining actions and other.
No, I mean, but are you checking on the logs? Which kind of get actions are they pulling, and if they are using the alien world contracts or not?
We use that log mine that you just talked about, and we read that log mine and then pump all that data into a MySQL database with billions and billions of transactions, and then have.
So they are requesting that.
And then, about 15,000 calls a month on average every month because you can't get that data. AW doesn't provide it, and so we provide that community tool. And I've been fighting for years to get points for that, but that's why I jokingly say is there are people, I know that y'all like to discredit them, and not all of them may sit in front of a screen, but that data is there, and y'all are doing a great job of making it a very expensive commodity. Just nobody wants to pay for it.
It could be part of their contribution score of that particular product.
I've submitted it every single month, and y'all have given it a 0 every single month. But we can talk about that later. But to answer your question, there are people, they run contests, they run things based off of that chain data, and it's really, really hard to access chain data, especially when it's in bulk, especially when it's filtered. That's my point. But I know I'm unique.
Just feel smart to have 3 to 5 full archive nodes, like indexing every single action on wax.
Yeah, I just checked our node is partial, but we are indexing logmine. So I would check, Michael, how many requests we're getting for logmine.
Oh, I don't know whether you're getting requests for logmine on a Hyperion. My point is that we provide a service to digest that data.
Ah, okay, the data inside logmine. I was talking about if it's important to of course you are digesting data from what it's indexed on Hyperion.
Correct, from their abuse of the state history.
But you need,
but that data is there. I mean that there.
So you need the data to be indexed on Elasticsearch to provide that service, right?
And that's just what I do. And my point is that it's not just ones and zeros. That is game data. That's a lot of game data.
Yeah. No, but what I mean is that you have a specific service with the data. My question is, are they using Hyperion natively is people using Hyperion natively to request? You are, I know. You are, but you built a service for that. I mean, outside of that scenario, is people using other nodes specifically to fetch data from large inline action transactions?
I can go through. I want to say on Mars tended to be more. I mean, but you can see the bot farms that are just scraping to see their actions and data and stuff like that, right? I mean, it's not so much that it's heavy use, it's that it is use, is my point.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's used by not the developer. And yes, you would love for the developer to do it, but if anybody has proven the point of who could and doesn't, that's the problem we're getting. But anyway, it's that's abusive to the state history, even if you're not running Hyperion. You know, I mean, it's still flooding out there, and that data is definitely in use. But it's funny is that we kill Alien World data from everywhere, and we're the only provider. So, I mean, there are people that pull it.
Okay. Do you guys have any other questions about Hyperion to Igor? Now is your chance. Anything you wish for? Anything you need to know?
I'll slide up in his DMs when I need something.
Yeah, direct way.
Thank you for what you do, Igor. It's kind of a thankless job, isn't it?
Yeah, thanks, Igor.
Yeah. When's the next call? Is in 2 weeks, this one, right?
Oh, we're having it weekly. We are having it weekly. One of the next ones.
Just split the call.
Exactly.
Okay.
Tuesday is always for tech. We are working on getting someone from the Firehose and Substreams team on too. Maybe that's an interesting one too for you. Yeah, we are grinding through all the tech topics we have every Tuesday.
Okay.
Usually 2, 3, 4 hours ahead, we are writing a short message and announcing whatever topic we want to discuss. It's always Tuesday.
I would say next week, but it's probably better in 2 weeks. I can show something about the hub.
That would be great. We appreciate that. Yeah, just let us know when you're ready, and we'll get you a slot booked.
Yeah.
Let me feed into that. Give me a key.
Yeah, Mike was happy. He's trying to finish that computer. I don't know what he's changing there, but
Yeah, what are you doing, man?
That's a 14th Gen i9. I need it for tomorrow. So that's installing my DDR5 with ECC. Right?
yeah.
So I figured I would multitask.
ECC.
Here you go. Check out that beast. That's the heatsink that goes on it. On that little piece of i9.
Are you using the 192 gigs?
No, I'm doing 128. But I do have a PCI 4.
I've been testing, like it has been very stable. I have one machine running in 192 with the new large capacity sticks. It's fine for now. So
you've got an i9 on one. Would that have 6 slots of RAM?
No, 4 slots. But
48.
Now the limit per slot is 48 gigs.
Oh, so it's still 4 slots. They just go up to 48.
Yeah, I'm doing that on a 12900K KS.
On a 12. Okay. So
yes, just because it was available. The others 14 Gen I use it with 128. So I will wait a little bit, and then if we have the opportunity, we buy more for those. I don't know. You heard that the problem with XSAT, right?
Yes, Ross and I ran into it. Well, I don't know.
Yes.
There's all sorts of problems. I don't know.
No,
Wait, what is the problem with what?
RAM? With RAM, because they will start pulling the Bitcoin data on EOS, and then
I wondered. I was going to ask you, how's that going to affect Hyperion? Because it's crushing state, but that's a different.
Yeah, but it's not too much. It will add like 200 gigs somewhere, and then it will stop adding too much because it's just Bitcoin. It's not too much data after it's initially printed. So it's fine for state after. The problem is that what I think is that they are requiring over 200 gigs of RAM. But this will not be queried as frequently. So I think it will, if you have swap on a very fast disk, it should be running fine because you will not be getting too many requests for that block for that.
I did heaps of testing, hey Igor, and whatever it is, it seems to do a couple of queries, even though it's not all of it. I couldn't get it working properly, even on a machine with the right amount of RAM, unless I used TempFS.
Oh, even with Mapped Private, it didn't work.
And that was with striped NVMEs as well. It does something.
It's only when it was syncing, once you could get past it.
Yes, exactly.
And then,
but then if you stop it, but then if you stop it, it'll take like ages, and then to restart it, it takes ages. It's just a liability. And you put it onto TempFS, and it's just lightning.
No, okay. No, but Mapped Private, it should be better after.
It didn't work. It didn't work either.
You thought that. No, that's
so
what
they are doing. So they are doing a lot of random access in that case. Yeah.
Whatever it is. I know Kevin said he was looking into it.
Because it's divided into chunks. If they're touching all the chunks, then it's a problem.
And just to bring everybody else, as we EOS folks are going on, the core of this is a rapid influx of RAM. So RAM usage. Now, it being scattered and over time on Wax, the amount it uses isn't too bad because it's different. But what we're noticing is, you start loading that RAM up, especially rapidly, even legitimately own it, it's yours to use, it definitely has some effects. And even like the Mapped Private, which was really good about, helping get by as long as you can, doesn't do well. And Ross and I ran into that, and he figured out TempFS is night and day different. See you, Ross. Have a great slumber.
Not everyone. Just bye.
Anyway, so as we talk about RAM utilization and billing and stuff like that, is as we keep saying, and that RAM, I can throw 30 terabytes, I can throw 60 terabytes, I just got to pay for it. RAM is a whole nother ballgame when you really start getting into what that means.
Yeah.
Even on latest and greatest Lamborghinis.
Yeah, it will be good to see what happens after XAT6.
Great, they say.
It will be great to see for all chains. Yeah. Okay.
All right. We are an hour and 20 minutes in. Kefar, I guess we are going to postpone the version 6 guidelines introduction to next week. When we are done with that. That's going to be a great improvement. Not going to tease more now. We are going to have a chance to look at it next week then. And I guess that's it for today. Or does anyone have anything else to mention, to throw into the room?
I'm pretty sure EOS IBC will stop tomorrow, so just one last reminder.
Oh yeah, there was last reminder. There was also several announcements by Alcor.
Oh yeah, that's right. Every time I go to the site, it does try to remind me.
Yeah, I think they did a good job in giving us enough time. So only one way off the bridge.
Any of the A's?
Again, please.
Do you want to go over any of the Gaza stuff?
Yeah, I don't think we have enough time for that today. I don't think we have enough time for that today. I think we are going to have that talk next week, but there are questions out there. There was a message by Cast with a few questions which we are debating on right now, right? Give them a read if you happen to have a good feedback for that. Just respond to that message and let's get a discussion going inside that group. But of course, I'm booking you a slot for next week, so we can get an update on that atomic assets enhancements. We are currently working out the last details or questions for NFT rentals, which we are currently implementing. So I guess we are going to postpone that also to next week.
Outside of the implementation, I'm just going to ask here, is like, what are the legal implications of having natively supported rentals? Just something to stir on for the next week, because I feel like that's a security, no? Is it a security? Is it common enterprise expectation?
Rentals of an asset, I don't think is.
I'm not so strong on the legal side of
anything.
I think this, not to touch on legal things, but I believe this kind of interpretation is like a per country based thing. So you shouldn't say that the blockchain is a specific country. So that will depend on who is using it. Like for us here in Brazil is one thing, and for people in America is another thing.
Something to think about.
Yeah.
Oh, something to think about. Yeah.
Because it's a common enterprise, okay. You could say that, and you could say it's profit derived from the efforts of others. There's an expectation of profit. Kind of passes. I mean, it fits the Howey test. So,
I mean, that would be more of the sale of or buying of NFTs, in my opinion, than it is the rental. But yeah, you're going down a whole legal rabbit hole. None of it.
But if rental is generating profit, right, for someone, it's. Yeah.
If you buy it to generate the profit, then that's the security, I think. But renting it in itself, I think, is just being a consumer. But I'm not a lawyer.
Yeah.
In Germany, there's also different if you buy it to rent it or just buy it and then rent it. Is your intention when buying it to make a profit or not? So I think that also plays into it.
But well, how can that be transcribed in the court of law or anything? The intention of users? I mean, that's...
Yeah, if you do something with the intent of making a profit, it's something that the tax authorities just decide for you, essentially. If they say you do it with the intention of making a profit, then you have to tax it.
Just look at the...
If you don't, it's a gray area.
You have the drug code. Intent to distribute is the same. They just derive that on how much you hold.
I think if you what the SEC is doing to OpenSea right now, I think that might answer your question about what our stance is on those.
I think it's actually not really important in this to discuss this in this round. I wrote in the chat. In my opinion, it comes down to the interfaces that are providing that functionality, not to the smart contract itself.
Yeah, I think you're right. At least here in Brazil, it doesn't matter. Like if you are using a specific website, is that website that is responsible legally for what you're doing on the chain? It's not the chain.
Yeah, but Brazil's crazy.
Yeah, we don't have Twitter anymore.
Yeah, but the regulators care about the interfaces the users can interact with. So they don't care about like the API technicalities. They care.
Yeah.
Where can I do it? Which country is the site based where you can do it, and so on.
I feel like this is a topic for a Thursday talk.
Topic not for us here. Not for me, at least.
Not very technical.
Yeah, maybe Thiago from our team has like good information on that front because he did a lot of talks with NFT regulation and crypto regulation here in Brazil. Don't know if it will affect like other countries, but he knows way more than I do about that.
All right. Enough for today. I also need to leave. But the questions have been put up on the governance channel. Maybe if you find some time, read them, and let's get a discussion going on there. And maybe we can pick up on that on Thursday. All right, let's conclude today's call. Thank you, everyone, and Igor especially.
Thank you, guys.
It was a highly educative one today again. Take care, everyone, and have a great week.